Welcome to Giants Nation. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, the Football Grump, and we're 1 week away from free agency, which means we've got to do our pending free agent episode. Big one this year. Last year's was a little slow. It was like, hey, did you bring back Darius Slayton? And then it's like, hey, we could talk about Jason Pinnock for a little bit here. Year before was nuts, though, right? You had Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Julian Love. That was insanity. And this year we got a big three though. We got Wan'Dale Robinson, Jermaine Eluemunor, Cordale Flott, and then even some other guys that are worth having a conversation around, like Micah McFadden, Greg Van Roten, Aaron Stinney, General Shevsky. Got to pay somebody still. I'm going to have to do that this week and just do it. Grump, how are you? You had a good mock draft this morning that you put out. How you doing?
I am doing well, Bobby. This is like my second favorite time of year. It's like when, you know, it's kind of you go back to school in fall. It's kind of like going back to the NFL. You can't possibly be any more ready than to see all your friends again. And then, springtime, you're getting excited for summer. You got the draft coming up. So I did a mock draft that released this morning on Giants Nation Show's YouTube channel. So you can check that out. And also, I got the UFL starting kickoff March 27th that this year I'm going to be covering every single week of, because the Giants are really terrible and they could use really cheap fringe ads. So always good to have my eye on UFL spring football players that can round out and complete your roster. So if you guys are also interested in that, be sure to follow me because I'm going to do all that.
Yeah, a lot of awesome stuff going on with your UFL covers, the mock draft, and we're free agency. We're going to be going nuts like always, and then I put together a rough schedule for draft month. We're going to have some different episode ideas this year too. So
Hell
good
yeah.
stuff. First, before we get into these pending free agents, talk about Wan'Dale Robinson. This episode was brought to you by some special people. We got KJ2 low key. Is he too low key? And as his name suggests, or is he just low key, like the right amount of low key? We got Jerry Greenier or Gary. I'm pretty sure it's Jerry Greenier. Not he's not Icelier, like Iceland, Greenland. Maybe he's very icy. Colin with 2 L's in the middle of the name. That's the Giants season this year. Only 2 L's.
That's Colin Johnson.
Colin Johnson. People forget Colin Johnson. We almost had conversation about Colin Johnson, and then that one game against the Falcons was basically the last time he caught a ball for the Giants. Actually, he had a good preseason. He was a preseason guy.
He was.
And then Sean Rupert. Like, there's a Muppet named Rupert, right?
I don't know the answer to that question.
He's Rupert the Muppet. Grump, who are these special people?
These Muppets went to patreon.com/Giants Nation and signed up for one of the 2 tiers available to them. They receive stickers in the mail from Bobby Skinner. They also get entered into a free monthly t-shirt raffle. And this year we're giving away copies of Jordan Ronon's book as well. They get access to hang out during live recordings of episodes such as this one. And they also get weekly game tape breakdowns that Bobby does as well during the regular season. Most importantly, they were glad that they did.
Rupert is Stewie's pet stuffed animal from Family Guy. That's what it was.
That's right. Yeah.
So almost a Muppet. All right, thank you, Patreon. You'll be glad you did. All right, let's get into this episode of the pending free agents. We're going to start with Wan'Dale Robinson, because one, he might get the highest paid contract, might not in the guarantee, but might. And I think he's the most controversial one on this list. The reality of it, he's 25 years old, 5'8", 185 pounds. He was the Giants' second-round pick in 2022, the first day 2 pick of the Joe Schoen era. Coming off of a year where he had 92 catches, 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns in the absence of Malik Neighbors. He was 8th in the NFL in targets, 9th in catches, 14th in yards, and then 64th in touchdowns. One more catch than he had the year before, but 315 more yards. He had 60 catches for 525 yards in 2023, tore his ACL as a rookie in 2022. Wan'Dale Robinson is a good player. But I think this one is tricky, Grump, because we'll get to it. There's so many things where I'm like, I would clearly rather use the money on this, where with the other guys, I think it's a little more difficult to say that. But Wan'Dale Robinson is a good player, but that might just being max out of what the Giants should pay him. What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, it's very, very difficult to protect Wan'Dale on the open market and, whether or not the Giants can or should win a bidding war for him. But I think the real question should be asked, and people are asking it, right? Is does John Harbaugh's Giants need a Wan'Dale Robinson? And I think that's the operative question here because there's not there's not a whole lot of comparisons for uh guys that are kind of like him, right? 25-year-old slot mainly, but does have plus ball skills. He's quicker than he is fast. Um, but he is also more than slot only. Like it's pretty clear that he has some level of ability beyond just being a slot player. I've seen the argument that um his production in 2025 is somewhat fake because if Malik Neighbors is on the roster, then he's not. But that's sort of not important. If he goes to another team that doesn't have a Malik Neighbors, the proof that he had in 2025 is that he does have some ability to go downfield. The fact of the matter is he did produce and did fill into whatever role that the Giants had for him. He was not getting the same depth of target that he was getting in previous years, where it's basically within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. He was stretching the field a little bit more. But also, it's pretty clear that he's not Cooper Kupp as a receiver either. But he's also like 6 years younger than Cooper Kupp. So, I mean, like the comparisons for Wan'Dale Robinson are really hard. He's better than players that are similar to him in age and body type, like Calvin Austin and Tutu Atwell. I think
Right.
it's pretty clear he's better than him. The best comp I think you can get for him is Khalil Shakur. And he also has more, I would say, downfield ball skills, at least evidence of it in his career than Wan'Dale Robinson. And Khalil Shakir got 4 years, $53 million extension. So with the cap going up, Wan'Dale coming off of great production on a bad team, he's always taking hits. He's very rarely injured. I don't know where this false narrative that he's light and gets hurt a lot has come up. He's very much not hurt. I mean, you take away the ACL tear and it's almost nothing. So I think with the cap going up, he's probably making close to $55 million on a 3 to 4 year deal. And A, the Giants don't want to spend that. B, I'm not really sure that this type of player is part of John Harbaugh's offense right now. Maybe in an ideal world where you have all the other pieces and this is the missing piece, you go spend like crazy to get something like this, but we are not there. We're not now. So I don't think that this is happening for the Giants at all.
Well, and obviously the Harbaugh, like what does Harbaugh envision for this offense? Like that obviously is part of it. But here's where his production this past year is not fake. Like that's total BS, right? Like it's not like we, have like, oh, he just played on the best show on turf and, he was just always open or wide open. Obviously there's some good zone beater stuff. And I think his deep catches are more of a product of like, you know what? This you got open on this crosser because that's what happened on the zone coverage, right? Like basically all of his deep catches were that, except for the Cowboys game, which was again like the Cowboys ran like Madden cover two.
The Cowboys game almost doesn't count for anything.
Yeah, the Lions game was his best game, like with the downfield, because they were playing man coverage. He was beating man coverage on crossers and other types of routes. And then obviously the flea flicker big play, which is a flea flicker. So it's not fake, but I do think it's deceptive because here's the thing is, yeah, he could play a little bit on the outside. He played 57% in the slot this year, which was his lowest, but it was 80% when Neighbors was there. It was 78% last year, 76% the year before. So any team that isn't having an emergency at wide receiver is putting him only in the slot. That's where I think that it's like, yeah, he could play outside in two tight end formations and stuff. But anytime there's 3 wide receivers, he's playing in the slot. Um, and if he's the focal point of your passing game, yeah, he could get those 1,000 yards and stuff. And that's why, like, he's a good player and he's worth getting, paid a good contract. The question is, like, are we almost in a sense unlucky that he had this career year, the year that he's open for free agency? Because I think if he's open for free agency last year or even 1 year from now, I think the contract is not as expensive. And a year where also the Titans have the most cap space in the NFL. And if there's any coach who has a role for this type of player more than anybody in the NFL, it's literally Brian Daboll who looks for this, not just this role, this specific player for this role. So that's where, and I'm gonna talk on the other side a little bit too of like what the reasons why you would want to keep Wan'Dale Robinson, but it's just this is where I think your answer comes to is I think he's gonna get around 20 mil per year, and maybe I'm overshooting it, but he's gonna get around that. And ask yourself, this team has Malik Neighbors. Do you think we need a wide receiver too? Like, not need. Would that be like a still kind of a hole on this team of having that like oh, we don't have that second really good wide receiver. That's where I think it's like, man, maybe that tells you the story. Is how do you feel about it? Like, would you even consider drafting a wide receiver in the first or second round with Wanda? Like, if Wan'Dale Robinson was a 20 mil plus year per player and you had Malik Neighbors, I don't even consider drafting a receiver first or second round. But the reality is like that still is a consideration for me. The flip side of that, though, Grump, is if you do let him walk, now wide receiver does become an issue where it's not an issue with him. Because here's the issue: if you let him walk, your wide receiver room is now just Malik Neighbors coming off an ACL and Darius Slayton coming off his worst season, and now he's 29 years old. And I mean, I've never seen a guy's confidence. I have, but his confidence got shot last year where he was like afraid to just catch the ball with his hands. So if you could say, hey, I guarantee you Slayton is what he was the 3-4 years before that, then I'm saying, okay, I can get by with the years him as my second guy, or maybe I'm upgrading with some other guys with free agents we could talk about. But if Darius Slayton is what he is last year, now you do have a need, like an actual need at wide receiver, which you didn't have when you had Neighbors, Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson.
So I mean, a couple things. Number one, as you were saying, like no team is going to sign Wan'Dale to be anything more than the slot. But I think what he proved in 2025, where you have Malik Neighbors go down in week 4.
Yeah.
I mean, he played pretty much the whole year as the focal point and was able to produce without being completely shut down. So my point isn't that any team that gets him is going to put him on the outside. It is just that if you do have an emergency, you're not stuck with this slot only receiver for that particular year. Like he has the ability to do other stuff, but that's neither here nor there. In terms of the Giants situation and everything that you're asking me, in terms of, like Darius Slayton and where they're going, for me, Darius Slayton, he might as well not be on the roster. I'm just going to pretend I don't see him there because either he returns to form this year, and that's awesome, or he doesn't, and that sucks. But regardless, I'm probably moving on from him the year after next anyway, because he becomes basically free money to save instead of having a 30-year-old on your roster that just had a declining year and always had a little bit of drop issues anyway. I mean, like the drops are not new. They certainly got worse last year, whatever
They got worse, and he didn't put up the same production that he had, and
correct
the
to offset it.
Yeah, not even like offset is offset it.
I'm not even considering Darius Slayton when I'm thinking about the wide receiver position. He's something that I have this year. There's probably not a way to go off of him, and I'm just going to try and work above him, make him a depth guy, see what I can do. But I think with Wan'Dale Robinson, him moving on, I think you'll get a comp pick.
I don't think the Giants, unless Eluemunor walks too.
Really, you don't? Okay.
Even with the Giants, are going to be spending money next offseason.
That's true.
That's my thing. Is it's I think you'll be spending all season.
Well, regardless, even when he walks, because I really do think it's going to happen, they're going to look at this position, like the wide receiver position, as somewhat where they need to get an outside wide receiver, I think, to complement Malik Neighbors. They're not going to be worried about the hole in the slot specifically. Yeah. They're just going to look and see Darius Slayton as someone that we must try and transition from or upgrade right now. So and that's really going to be the consideration.
Let's talk about contract, and we're going to do our free agency preview on Friday, but a little bit about options to replace it, because that has to be the conversation. A little bit letting him walk. So contract wise, slot guys, Amon-Ra got 4 for 120. Obviously, Wan'Dale's not in that tier. Khalil Shakir, like you said, is the best comp for him. He got 4 for $53 million last year, coming off of 76 catches, 820 yards. Similar, but less production with better quarterback play. Got 13.2 mil. So that's the absolute floor for a contract with Wan'Dale. And I'd be shocked if it was anywhere close to that. If it's close to that, then I want to bring him back. You look at Jacoby Myers, got 3 for 60 at 29 years old, but he's got inside, outside. He's like, obviously, Wan'Dale could play
more outside than inside.
Yeah, and it's more natural. Chris Godwin got 3 for 66 at 29 years old, but he's got better. We're also 2 years removed away from a guy like Nico Collins getting 24 mil per year. I know that's not a player comp, but, just looking at like what a higher end receiver got. Slayton got 12 mil per year last year, which is 30th in the NFL. But even when you look at that, like you look at Darius Slayton getting 12 mil per year, and like, I can't believe they signed him. Go look at wide receiver contracts in the NFL, and there is nobody in the NFL that's better than Darius Slayton making less money than him that's not on a rookie contract. Maybe you could find one that you debate. Like, go look at like average annual value. There's not a single receiver in the NFL that you're like, that's just a better maybe there's one or two.
Can I ask why you would use AAV as the indicator there?
Average annual value is always what it ends up being the most close to, because the 2-year, 3-year, these contracts always have an out, and the average annual value is what I look at for the most part. Obviously, a 1-year deal is much different than a 3-4-year deal or whatever. But whether it's 2-year, whether it's 3-year, 4-year, 5-year, these contracts always have outs, and the average annual value is the best way to look at a contract, in my opinion. It's not the perfect way, but I think it's the best way. So there's that. So like that's like the floor for playable wide receivers is what Darius Slayton got. I just think because Wan'Dale's so young and the Titans have a lot of money, I think he's gonna get around 20 mil per year. Like here's my contract projection for him. 3 for 63 from the Titans, so 21 mil per year.
Yeah.
And what would I re-sign him at? Like, be like, okay, let's bring him back. I put it at 48 per mil over 3 years, which is
a little over 15.
Yeah, it's 16 mil per year. But even then, like, that's not like, oh wow, what a steal. It's just like, you know what, that's a good contract to bring him back on. Keeping one of your own players or whatever. But the reality is, if he was a free agent for another team, I'm not being like, hey, let's go pay Wan'Dale Robinson 3 for 48. But with that, you have to talk about the options. Cuts and stuff are going to happen. Trades are becoming a little more relevant as free agency gets worse and worse every year. Alec Pierce, not happening. Mike Evans, don't see that one happening. Deebo Samuel, don't see that one happening. And that kind of leaves you with 3 receivers in free agency that are like good players. You have Juwan Jennings, Rashid Shaheed, and Romeo Doubs.
Juwan Jennings is going to be your better downfield blocker, which I think is going to be coveted by this regime. I'm curious why you say you don't see Deebo happening, because that would have been my first question to you is if 16 million per year is your projection for Wan'Dale, that's pretty close to what I think you could probably get Deebo for, who would actually add that element in the run game. So I'm curious why you don't think that would happen at all.
I think he's 30 years old, and
Yes.
there's that. And I think a guy like Deebo is probably going to get like a 1-year, 2-year big deal from a team that views himself as a Super Bowl contender.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
And so I just think Juwan Jennings, who, like you said, there's good fits with like the blocking and stuff. He's a good, solid wide receiver, but he's not someone you want to go and just like pay out the ass.
No.
Romeo Doubs, who's like a solid player, maybe just like you said, hey, name a starting receiver in the NFL. It's Romeo Doubs. And then Rashid Shaheed, I don't know if that's a fit at what they're looking at, and maybe the Raiders or, Clint Kubiak brings him to his third destination with him. That's the thing. That's like, those are your only guys. But the reason why I'm on the not re-signing Wan'Dale train is because, like, I'd rather pay less for those guys than more for Wan'Dale, number one. And then when you say if it's going to be around 20 mil, I just think of like, there's just so many things I'd rather do with $20 million where it's not even close.
Yeah.
Pay Eluemunor, pay Tyler Linderbaum, pay a running back. I know that's been a big topic with the Giants. I'd much rather pay Kenneth Walker, and I'm not even the world's biggest Kenneth Walker fan, at 12 mil than paying Wan'Dale at 18 or 19. If we were going to spend that kind of money on a receiver, I'd rather throw the extra to go get an Alec Pierce. Leo Chanel. Well, I'd pair
Mm.
Leo Chanel with, Sonny Styles in the first round. Any offensive lineman, defensive tackle. That's just kind of where I land at. Is like I just I view what he does as fairly replaceable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that these guys kinda come out of the college ranks, like, every year or 2 that are not necessarily 5'8", but certainly undersized, but they have that quick twitch ability, they have sure hands, they can separate, they're good route runners, it's just they're not gonna be able to hold up on the outside, and if that's the case, and this becomes the piece that maybe we should have invested in and we realize 2 years later, then just draft one.
Well, and the thing is, like, oh, his role, but like that role's not like a lot of teams don't have that
That's very
consistent
true.
role. Like, when you look at it, it's like, hey, it's actually kind of Brian Dable, where it's like I paid Cole Beasley to do that role. Then the Bills replaced Cole Beasley with Khalil Shakir to do that role. The Giants got Wan'Dale Robinson and Richie James as a free agent to
Mm.
do that role. Like, really, the only other guy in the NFL is like Josh Downs with the Colts, where it's like, he's not really doing much. You're not sending him vertically on the outside, or running posts or whatever. It's just kind of like, yeah, he can get down the field some zone beaters, but he's more running those 5 to 10 yard quick type of routes, and they're good and efficient. Um, Really, that's like the only other player because like the top end guys like Amon Ross and Brown do so much more. CD,
Yeah.
so those guys just do so much more. Um, so so like I said, my projection is 3 for 63 from the Titans specifically. Um, if the Titans are out, maybe it gets a little lower than that. And then what would I re-sign him at? Like if I was negotiating with Wan'Dale right now, said this is my top offer, take it or leave it, would be 3 for 48. And
Yeah, I mean, I
that's without me knowing the Giants' entire plans of free agency and not even having my specific one. Like I could put together a free agency plan and even that 3 for 48, and like, yeah, I'll actually pass on that. Let's let's set ourselves up with other priorities.
Yeah, I mean, I think once I have pen to paper and I see moves starting to happen and I see the direction of things, I think I'll be able to basically reach that point where you're at, where it's just like I could re-sign Wan'Dale and be pretty happy with a slot receiver for the next 3 years, or I could probably sign these 3 different guys and be really happy with this one off season knowing that I have a lot less to fill next year. Like, we just make so much more progress by doing this, whereas I feel like if Wan'Dale covers up all of that, it's almost like it's literally covering up holes. Like, oh, well, Wan'Dale took this one to the house because he broke a tackle, but Jackson Dart was getting crushed because we had no money to sign a right tackle. You know what I mean? Like, I just, I don't know.
And the reality is we're gonna talk about a couple more guys. Like the Giants have pending free if Wan'Dale was the only pending free agent, but you know what? Keep him. Like he's your only pending free agent. Find a way to keep him. Um, but they're not in that situation. They don't have a ton of cap space right now. They obviously have a ton. They have the most wiggle room in the NFL. They have the least amount of dead cap in the NFL. Um, but I just have other priorities, and one of those priorities is I'm trying to get everything in order. Is Shopify. When you're starting off with something new, which the Giants may need a new wide receiver, it seems like your to-do list keeps growing every day with new tasks, and that list can easily begin to overrun your life. I'm sure John Harbaugh is going through that a little bit. That's why I had to hire Donald Ponte. Finding that right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style, accelerate your efficiency, whether you're uploading a new product or just trying to improve existing ones. Shopify is packed with helpful tools that write product description, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. I've been doing a little, getting my taxes and stuff done, and I'm like, man, Shopify has made it easy on that front when it comes to the merchandise. And what if I get stuck? Shopify's always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support, which is nice because I actually haven't had to use Shopify's customer support yet, but there was another company I had to use their customer support about for the other day, and it was terrible. Tackle all those important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. No need to save multiple websites or try to figure out what platform is hosting the tool that you need. Everything is all in one place, making your life easier and your business operations smoother. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/GNS. Go to shopify.com/GNS. That's shopify.com/GNS. You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did.
Which, by the way, we have an official company title or name now. Do you want to know what it is?
You mean for like the parent company of Giants Nation show?
It just
Is it Skinner Sports?
Skinner Sports. No, it's very boring. GNS Media Corp.
Okay.
So
Boo. Big media.
yeah, GNS.
That is a very big media move of you.
It stands for guns and stuff.
Yeah, there you
go. So you could do whatever you want with that. You know, you create your own acronym. Let's talk about a priority of business, and that for me is Jermaine Eluemunor.
Yes.
The right tackle for the Giants has been the biggest breath of fresh air for this offensive line in a long time. He signed for a 2-year, $14 million deal in 2024. He's now 31 years old. This past season was 10th of 92 offensive tackles in pass blocking efficiency with 4 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and 12 hurries. The year before, 4 sacks, 9 QB hits, and 29 pressures, which was 27th of 59. But we remember, Grump, when talking from our player profile on him, a fourth of those numbers, 1 sack, 2 QB hits, and 4 pressures, came in his first game where he had switched over to left tackle when they played in Germany. He's a adequate run blocker. He doesn't look like the same guy he was with the Raiders as a run blocker, where that was actually an advantage for him. You bring this guy back. Like, I'm not sitting here saying this dude's irreplaceable. And if he gets, this big contract that he might get if he has 2 bad games in a row, people are like, oh man, this guy's overrated, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Call him whatever you want. But here's what he is, though, Grump. And I think this is undeniable. He's the best right tackle the New York Giants have had since Kareem McKenzie. So again, overpay if you have to keep him there for the next 2 years, even if he becomes overrated or overpaid or whatever. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes, essentially, to keep that in place. I know what he is. I'm not playing around. Yes, I'd like to find the long-term tackle. We can try and do that with Jermaine Eluemunor here. I'm not playing games with Jackson Dart. I'm not. I am erring on the side of caution when it comes to the offensive line. I think he's a priority to bring back. He is the priority to bring back.
I've been so happy with Jermaine Eluemunor, and I completely agree with you. He's the best right tackle this team has had since Kareem McKenzie. It is a huge breath of fresh air, and we knew it early on. We kind of had the sense last year where it's like, I think this dude is really, really good. It's just hard to tell because it took about 5 seconds for everyone on the offensive line to get hurt. And now he's kind of the only one out there. And then last year was like the proof is like, oh, if that offensive line stays healthy, like they're a top unit pass blocking. Like they're pretty good. And both one of the better tackle duos in the entire NFL last year from a pass blocking standpoint. I was worried that I was talking myself into thinking that Jermaine Eluemunor was irreplaceable, and he's not. And so I started to kind of devalue him as the year was ending. But now that I've got like the season stink off of me, and I've just looked at the season with fresh eyes, re-signing Jermaine Eluemunor, first of all, shoring up the offensive line must happen for Jackson Dart. It just must happen. And there's nothing wrong with continuing your search for the long-term solution at right tackle after you've re-signed Jermaine Eluemunor. Re-signing Jermaine Eluemunor does not in any way make me feel like the offensive line is complete or doesn't need work every single year and need backfilling and need depth and then future replacements. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen if Andrew Thomas suffers like a career-ending injury. We're not set up to handle that right now. We're not set up to handle John Runyon retiring. We're not set up to handle John Michael Schmitz not being resignable next year. Right now, we have no right guard or right tackle. I mean, this offensive line, nothing really is guaranteed right now other than Andrew Thomas is your starting left tackle so long as he's healthy. At 31 years old, I was worried that, but you know what? Like,
I refuse to get worse at this position. That's the thing. I refuse to get worse at right tackle. Interior is there's certainly upgrades to be had there, and I think they can make upgrades there without going and spending the most on Tyler Linderbaum or whatever. Right tackle, tell me what your upgrade is to that, because I don't see it in free agency. If you're telling me you're sold on a tackle at pick 5, then that's a different story. Then okay, I understand it. You are drafting a tackle at pick 5. That is
play right tackle, which is
that's you're dead set on. That's okay. That's fine. But like other than that, you are telling me that you're downgrading, because taking one anywhere other than pick 5 is a downgrade from Jermaine Eluemunor in the immediate future. And I'm not playing with Jackson Dart's immediate future. I'm not messing around with that.
I'm also not going to feel bad spending, $20 million a year on Jermaine Eluemunor for a short period of time and drafting a right tackle somewhere in the draft. I'm just not going to feel bad about it. I know Marcus Bowe is here. Maybe Marcus Bowe's future is playing left tackle. Maybe it's playing center. Maybe it's playing guard. I have no idea, but I'm not going to feel bad about having 2 legitimate backup tackles and 2 legitimate starting tackles on my roster. In fact, I'm going to feel pretty fucking good about it.
Yeah, it's just a simple, like, you know what? I'm willing to overpay or whatever, or stretch it just to get this done. Get this done. And here's the thing is, like, the money, he's gonna get a nice contract. But the offensive line money has gotten bigger and bigger every year, obviously. But when you look at it, Charles Cross actually did us kind of a favor. It's not gonna get crazy though. Because Charles Cross, at 25 years old, a top 10 pick for his own team, re-signed at $26 million per year. So that's where it's like, all right, well, you can't argue that you get close to that. Now, Titus Howard, just today, at 30 years old, got $22.5 million per year. Taylor Moton, another older guy, got $22 million to start the year. Zach Tom, a young player, got $22 million to start the year. Last year, Dan Moore, who you could question if he's even good, got $20 million per year from the Titans. Jalen Moore got $15 million per year from the Chiefs, which is crazy because he didn't even play. He wasn't a starter, and he got $15 million per year. So that's what made you think it could be just nuts. And you look at like James Hudson's, but it does feel like those low players getting way more money than we expect hasn't made the top end of like free agents or older guys go nuts, where it's like, oh my gosh, we're approaching $28 million per year for a guy like Jermaine Eluemunor or Titus Howard.
And I think where that ended up getting settled, the 2 guys I wrote down were kind of the top end of what I think he'll get and the low end of what he'll get. And it's Jack Conklin, at 30 years old, signed a 3-year, $45 million contract with Cleveland. So that's $15 million per year. I don't think he's going to go quite that low, even though statistically, I think they're pretty similar. Taylor Moton is the other one. 2 years, $44 million. That's $22 million per year. I think he's going to wind up somewhere in between there, likely somewhere between like $17 to $20 million a year. And I am okay paying that for Jermaine Eluemunor. But the question is what's the length? Is it 2 years or 3 years?
I would think it's going to be a 3-year deal, which is essentially a 2-year deal in the NFL.
Right.
That's what I would prefer, is because he is 31. It's like, hey, let's invest 2 years guaranteed into him. We get a 3rd year if we're still happy with him after 2 years. I feel like that's the best spot. If I was him, I would be looking for something a little more longer term because of his age. But maybe he's like, you know what? I'm confident in myself that the cap's going to go up and I'm going to be cashing in again. But I could see someone like him really pining for a 4-year deal, where a 26-year-old guy would want the 3-year. It's funny you said like between 15 and 22, your projection. I have him like basically right in the middle. My projection is 3 years, $58.5 million, which is $19 million per year.
Yeah, that sounds right based on the way contracts are now, right? As we're speaking right now.
And I would pay him more if I have to, right? If some team is offering $20.5 million per year, I'd be like, okay, here's $22 million per year.
I would really like to have this deal locked up before the draft, but my fear is that he's going to be one of the last players to sign a contract because he's going to test everything.
Yeah, but I think he'll have his offers on day one and make a decision.
You think so? So that's the thing. That's what's interesting about the low market.
Here's the thing: is these guys know what their market. They all know what their market.
That's true.
is, unless there's random guys who, end up like, oh man, it just never materialized or whatever. I think because of the position he plays, I think he's locked up in the first, at most 3 days of free agency.
All right.
Uh,
Well, I would love to get that locked up and done before the draft. I like that completely off my mind in the draft.
yeah, he'll have his contract, whether it's with the Giants or anywhere, it'll be done before our second week of the episode next week, or second episode of the week next week. If you don't resign him, you have to go into free agency. You got to go get a Braxton Jones or Braden Smith or a Rob Havenstein from the Rams. Like, you have to go and get someone, and that's why I'm just like, we just talked about Wan'Dale and pros and cons and stuff. This one is so simple to me. It's like, it's an offensive tackle. Like, never ever use the word replaceable with offensive tackle ever in your life. Like, it's not replaceable. It's not easily replaceable. You're extremely lucky and blessed if you can replace this.
The only thing that gives me pause to this administration, making him such a huge priority is the drop off in his run blocking since he got to New York is kind of interesting. I don't think that that's going to be a huge like thorn in their side that's preventing them from doing it, but it's the only one I can see other than the money just being outrageous.
I agree, and that's part of like, hey, it'd be nice to upgrade, but I'm just not playing games with this. Like, I'm not taking any chances with Jackson Dart. And at the end of the day, Jackson Dart is a passer. He is the most important piece on this team. I'm keeping him as protected as I possibly can, and I think he's the best option to do that. So you got, what do you think he ends up coming in at?
I think you're right. I think it's going to be around 19-20 million. I think he is going to be north of what he's probably actually worth, but there's no way he's going to touch Charles Cross at, what was it, 22?
I think 26.
26.
It's a Taylor Moton, Zach Tom. Those got Titus Howard got 22 and a half. So you can see him coming in right at that.
Right.
Like, it's not going to come in any more than that 22 and a half.
Yeah.
Which I'm willing to do, by the way. I'm willing to do that.
Where's your red line? Is it 24?
I guess. But here's the thing is, it just doesn't make sense for it to get that high.
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
It just doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, if he was 27 years old, then I'm like, then yeah, we're talking going. That's where the age is, like, it's just not going to get any higher because
the age and the fact that he's not really fleet-footed to begin with. So if there's any drop off in speed and athleticism, it's not like you know what I mean. It's like not like it's going to get better.
Yeah, he's figured out to play his way, and it's worked really well for 4 years now, and he's gotten better at it. All right, let's talk about the guy who is the hardest to predict, and that is Cordale Flott. I think this market is one of the hardest to predict out of all of free agency because there's so many outliers when it comes to him, good and bad. And scheme probably affects him more than other players because of the new coaching staff for the Giants. He's 6'2", 175 pounds, 24 years old. If he was coming out in this draft class, well, he's a little on the older side. Last year, when targeted, gave up 51.6% of his passes, 29 yards per game allowed, 8 pass breakups, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was 10th out of 72 corners in completion rate, 12th in passer rating allowed. He improved in some serious areas in 2024. He gave up 100% of passes in zone coverage. Last year, 50%. So he went from dead last to 4th in the NFL. He was always like a solid in man coverage player and benefited from being the best at the team on that this year. But he just felt like he got a way better feel for route ID and exploded into them. Down the field was super sticky and was able to find the ball better. But here's where his contract, I think, gets very hard to predict. He's got 1 year of average production in a position that can have outlier years. It's a corner position. It can fluctuate. But he's 24 years old, so he's extremely young, and hey, he's just building on this. He's just now, coming into his own. He has outside-inside flexibility. That's good. He's 170 pounds, so he's not going to be a physical force in the run game. And then when it comes to his contract, there's no great seasons that he's had. Like, he had a good season. It's not like this great, like, wow, look at this guy. He's getting Pro Bowl votes or whatever, or all pro votes. No ball production, which is not the most important thing. But it not no, it didn't low ball production. But like that's what free like you look at these teams and you realize how casual they can be in some of their free agent plans. Doesn't have a big draft pedigree. He's a size outlier. The other end of that, he only has the age as a set apart factor, except for David Mulugeta as his agent, who is probably the best agent in the NFL right now, especially for DB. So contract is hard to figure out, but Flott is the for me. I'll let the new regime decide. We're not the podcast that says, you got to trust him no matter what, blah, blah. Flawed is the one where I'm like, hey, if this is a guy you want to bring back, sure. If not, good as well too. Like I'm all for just carte blanche with him when it comes to Cordale Flott.
For a team that stinks out loud, these are 3 of my favorite players on that team, and I really don't want to say goodbye to any of them. Cordale Flott's 2025 is the potential coming to fruition that I saw after draft day, because I got to be honest, like I knew very little about him on draft day. I wasn't thrilled about the pick in the moment. I did my post draft research on him, and I was like, "Whoa, I am actually really into this." Like I could see this going a long way. And one of the first things I noticed about him was how young he was at that time. Um, so it pains me to say this, but I am okay just walking away from this. And I understand the roster need, right? Like there is literally no corner opposite Paulson Adebo. I think at this point we can just say Deonte Banks doesn't count right
No,
now.
he's not a part of this team. Like,
Yeah. So I mean, like I understand what I'm walking away from. I would rather at this point, with all the other holes and my higher priorities in stopping the run, protecting Jackson Dart, getting Jackson Dart some weapons to score some points, whatever, I would rather spend low money on 3 vets that are probably at the twilight of their careers to just start opposite Paulson Adebo and then be at backfill depth for this first, just for 2026. This is not a super important position for me right now. I'm okay losing those games because there were just too many holes in outside corner was just a bridge too far, because there is no outside corner that you're going to feel happy about playing opposite Paulson Adebo that's coming in for less money than Paulson Adebo, which was 3 years and $55 million. I mean, you are spending big to get a starting outside corner that is young, in his prime, whatever. I would just rather deal with that in 2027, and just kind of see what patchwork I can get to just get depth and just veteran savvy that's going to fit Denard Wilson's like ability to on the fly quickly join this team, understand, communicate with other players, be a leader, in that DB room, communicate, make sure that everybody understands their role, what's going on pre-snap, post-snap, all that other stuff. I'm not real slick about getting a corner in the draft that's going to have to learn all this shit and also adjust to the NFL game. To me, Cordale Flott is just a bridge too far in terms of what he's going to command. And I have no idea what he's going to command, but it's not going to be cheap.
I don't think it's going to be crazy either, though. Like with Cordale Flott, like I know, like NFL, like that's what I'm talking about. Where it's like with the Giants, we know what Cordale Flott is, and I know you've made cut ups on Flott. I know you really like him, which is I figured you'd want him a little more.
I mean, do you
But
think he's going to come in for anything less than 18 million a year?
I do
Okay.
actually. That's my thing. Is like so like the NFL world is like, hey, there's Cordale Flott's a guy that you may not be thinking of that might going to get more money than you realize. And you're like, oh, okay. And for the Giants fans, that sounds bad. But for a Arizona Cardinals fan who's never heard of Cordale Flott, because why would you? He had 1 year production on a bad Giants team. He didn't have a bunch of interceptions that you look at. Like, it's understandable they're not here. I think that number could look like 3 for 36 and 12 mil per year. That's where I'm like, I understand he's gonna get a nice contract. But I don't think it's gonna be crazy. Like you said, Paulson Adebo, Carlton Davis, Charvarius Ward, Byron Murphy, they got 18 mil per year last year. I just don't think whatever you think of all those, I don't think he's commanding the same market as those guys. You look at Kyler Gordon, same draft class. He got extended by the Bears for 13 mil per year. You think he has a better name free agent, value than like Cordale Flott? I think Kyler Gordon does. If you ask, an NFL GM, like, would you rather have Kyler Gordon or Cordale Flott? They might think him. Now, again, all it takes is one team to be like, actually, we believe in this guy way more than the NFL does. And David Mulugheta being his agent does make me question this, but like my projection for him is 3 for 36 and 12 mil per year, which I would pay him, but this is where I'm, playing both sides of it, is I would understand if they're like, you know what, we need more physical presence in our corners.
Yeah, I mean,
And the fact that Adebo, I think, fits the scheme very well. So I don't view him as the same. I don't view him in the same light that I do his past season. I view that being a player that has more in him and will have more in him this year.
I think some bigger names being on the free agent market this year will lower his price a little bit. Because there is so much unknown about Cordale Flott. That's going to work against him. Whereas if he were in a dry cornerback free agent year coming out as a free agent, I think those unknowns would work in his favor. Where it's like, hey, you could, like you said, you can spin that 24-year-old year production as like, that's because I finally figured it out. I'm only 25 now. You know what I mean? Whereas, you just can't spin it. It's just like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just not going to go for that. Yeah, I'm sorry. So like Marshawn Lattimore, being released certainly I think works against him. And that's going to probably push his number down a little bit. But I think 12 million is probably the floor, man. For some reason, I still feel like he's as a sticky man corner, and that really is what he is. Like their lapses in zone coverage are not great.
And they got way better this past year. I mean, that was the difference between him as a player. He was
They're
better
also
in coverage as well too, but still.
He does have injury concerns. He didn't have anything really in 2025, but in previous years that was a concern. He's not going to add much as a run game guy, but I mean, like, I don't know. I think that a team is going to look at him and what happened there in his time thus far as a guy who's on the upswing, not someone with. So I think he's going to make closer to like 15 million per year. Feels my cat.
You said 18.
Marshawn Lattimore being released today, I think, is going to lower that number a little bit.
I was going to say whoever's closest to his contract should, win something. But if you say 15, we're way too close in that.
All right. So you want me to do? If you want to make it a competition, I'll jump it up to 16.5.
You said 18 earlier.
All right, fine. So whoever's closer,
and that gives you 15.5. By the way, if it comes in at 15.5, you win. So
yeah.
So you say 18. So if it's closer to 12 mil, I win. If it's closer to 18 mil, you win. The loser.
Well, let me ask you this.
What's the loser going to do?
Separate from our competition here or whatever. Do you think, because this is one of those things where the contract length may be the mitigating factor, right? Like if a team is just like, I don't know enough about you, I only want to give you 2 years. You will only be 26. You will still hit the free agent market again. Do you think that will push the AAV probably up?
That is a wild card in there, and that definitely helps your case. So wild card. So whenever we discuss Cordale Flott next, whoever loses has to pronounce like first before we talk about the segment. I'm a big dumb loser idiot. How about that? All right, simple. All right, next on the list. Now we're the stakes are getting a little lighter as we go. Micah McFadden, 26 years old, 5th round pick in 2022, missed essentially the entire season outside of a few snaps this past year with the Liz Frank injury. I want Micah McFadden back, and you could tell me, well, Bobby, they're going to draft Sonny Styles and they're going to sign Leo Chanel. I still want him back because I think his contract is going to be cheap. One, he's a good player, right? Gets downhill, like he's aggressive, he gives you some pass rush, but he has so much going against him. One, he's not a great size guy. He missed the entire year. He does have a missed tackle issue, right? That's an issue for a linebacker. And he's bad in coverage. Like, he's a liability in coverage, right? The Giants tried to get him off the field on 3rd down as much as they could. He's basically never made a play in coverage except for a couple in his time here with the Giants. That guy's not getting a lot of money. I think, I looked at other linebackers. I was like, Divine Diablo got 2 for 14. Cody Barton got 3 for 21. My projection for him is because of the injury, 1 year, 4.5. And I feel like I'm even being gracious. I think it could come in lower to that. But I would like to bring him back as that first backup, even though he may turn that down to go play for somebody else?
I think that's a really good guess. The injury, I think,
Well,
will
yes,
make.
it's a projection.
Sorry. Yes, correct. That is a really well thought out projection. I do
Research projection.
I think a 1-year deal is definitely in his future because of the injury. And people have made note to me, like closer to when the injury happened in whatever that was, September, that a Liz Frank injury is somewhat serious. Um, for a high impact position that he has at linebacker that may affect him more than, other players, whatever. So there will be some level of prove it to that. I think a 1-year deal works out best for both parties. Um, no matter where it is he goes. He doesn't have the name cachet. Like you said, you were going through all the things working against him. He doesn't have the name cachet that somebody like Kenneth Murray had, where he got 2 years, $15 million. Kenneth Murray is closer to Micah McFadden in terms of ability, I would say, that he is to his first round pick cachet. But regardless, he still has that cachet. He's going to add, you know, a digit or two.
And it's a position you cannot just look at stats and determine on how good they are,
No.
unless you're the best of the best, where you have double-digit tackles for a loss and stuff. Which he did have a double-digit tackle for a loss season a few years ago. So it's just like, and he's limited, right? Like he's someone that like is a good player, but you want to upgrade from. But I would love to bring him back, whether that's your first backup or hey, this is our starter for a year. I like I said, 1 year, 4.5 mil. I think it could come in at half that. Like I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was gonna say 4. 1 year 4. 2
yeah.
years 8. Yeah.
So it's I want him back because I think it's such a cheap deal. So if he gets anything more than that, I would genuinely be shocked. I'd be shocked even if he got like the Divine Diablo deal of 2 for 14.
Yeah.
Um,
So would I.
so I would want him back. All right, next category. Now we're going in categories. Veterans worth bringing back. This first guy is the only guy I want to talk more than, uh, you know, 85 seconds on. Greg Van Roten signed a 1-year, $3.25 million deal last year, coming off of a 1-year, $2 million deal. 36 years old now. He was 21st of 85 guards in pass blocking efficiency. He's always in the right spot. He's a very sharp player mentally. Um, Here's a pro for him coming back on a cheap deal, and here's a con. Con is at 36 years old, he knows he's not going to get a lot of money, but he wants to go to a place where he's projected to be a starter. That may not be the New York Giants, right? And it'd be kind of weird to like, hey, let's just run it back with the same interior 3 years in a row. Pro is he is 36 years old, and he is from this area and a part of this area. And if there's anyone who I can see like taking a hometown discount to stay home, it would be Greg Van Roten because he's an actual hometown guy.
I agree with you. I think that there is a solid chance that he can be brought back. Unfortunately for him, I don't think he's being brought back to start anything. I think that
Which
this
he
is
can find that spot in other teams, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But even last year, he did, he was a late signing, right? He was like, 8, 9, 10 days after free agency started. So
I was going to say from a talent perspective, I think that he's got a chance to be a starter on some team in the NFL. I think it's a small batch, but I also don't know that any one of those teams has the money to get him in addition to everything else that they think.
you don't need money. I mean, you need
No,
$3 million.
there are teams in worse cap situations than we are. So, but they're just there just may be more important holes on those particular teams. And the other thing is those particular teams may not be guaranteeing him a starting spot. That may be something where it's like, hey, you would be a starter for us, but we would really like to draft our right guard. You know what I mean? So, we would love to sign you and be depth, but I don't know if there's a single team in the NFL that would guarantee him a starting spot for him to not take a hometown deal
Yeah.
and get basically the same money. I don't imagine he's going to make more than $2.5 million.
Yeah, if the Giants get Tyler Linderbaum or like spend on like 8 mil on center or whatever, get Tyler Biadasz or whatever, then it's like, all right, bring Greg Van Roten back because I don't think you're going to give some big guard contract out there. Maybe they do, and then that'd be sick. But like, he is the perfect player to then draft a guard in the second round, the fourth round or whatever, and not force those guys in right away. Like he's like the perfect bridge guard. Have you ever heard of a bridge guard? Now you have. He doesn't actually guard the bridge. He's a bridge to the guard. All right, next. Joaquin Nunez-Roches, 33 years old this season, signed a 3-year, $12 million contract. Lived the whole thing out. Not bringing him back. You got Dexter Lawrence. You need two serious investments in this position. And then you have Darius Alexander. You would like to give him an option to be the fourth guy in that room, even though he could be your surprise, like not even involved at all. But I'm not bringing back Nacho.
There's a role for him in the NFL. I don't think it's on the New York Giants. And, he really is a run-stuffing defensive tackle that does happen to have the motor to sometimes get after the quarterback when that's all it takes is motor on longer developing plays or whatever. But he wasn't very good at stopping the run last year. So Giants need to upgrade from whatever it was he brought to the table last year anyway.
It was his best pass rushing year. He's just hitting his.
Yeah, he's sitting his stride at 33.
Got to go quick. Gunnar Olszewski. You need a returner. If it's him, awesome. If it's not, whatever. Amir Smith-Marsette's with the Cardinals. I will fight that battle again. But we're not doing a Dundies Award show this year. It's too late, the John Harbaugh stuff. So Wednesday, I'm going to live stream it on Twitter. I'm going to give away the $200 to one of the listeners. Anything on Gunnar?
No, cheap position to fill. He could be cheap. He could be upgraded. I will not have a problem if he's returned.
Cool. Chris Manhertz, Sean Stellato, Tommy DeVito's agent. He's always signed minimum contracts, which I would understand, but he is not just sign a minimum contract because he's the minimum player and get what he can. He's a guy that needs a role, needs to have that role from the team. Doesn't make sense with the Giants because they're probably going to have Theo as one of their tight ends. They're going to want someone that's a little more diverse as a receiver, as their second tight end. They're likely going to get a fullback. Manhertz doesn't really have a role on a team that's going to be involving a fullback so much in their run game. So he'll probably go somewhere else. I'll be rooting for him. The guy can really block, and he had a great 2 years here.
I would love to have him back, but I think it's him or a fullback on this team, and they will do the fullback over a tight end that can't catch.
All right, second to last category. Young players who could have a role, but what do you do with them? Daniel Bellinger. And people will be like, you're not talking Daniel Bellinger for 10 minutes? It's like this. What's the role for? He's 25 years old. It's probably good for him to get a fresh start somewhere else as a tight end too. Like he's clearly not going to be tight end 1 on this team. Mm-hmm. The Giants will likely want to find their own tight end too. Like he's a solid move blocker, but he's not above average in anything else. Like he's, had 19 catches, 280 yards. Like he's been on a team that's been desperate for targets every year except for 2024. And he's never commanded those, So he's a solid role player, but I would love him as my third tight end, but he probably goes and gets a tight end 2 role somewhere else.
Yep. I would agree with that. I would love to have him as a tight end, but I think on this team, he's going to end up being tight end 3, where he'll just have better offers around the NFL.
Yeah, which I would love. Do you think he gets anything more than like $2 million per year?
No, but I think he would take that to go somewhere where it's just a fresh start.
I agree, but what I'm saying, are we under, like, is there more of a market out there for him than we would realize?
I don't think so. I think his film is good. He played on a bunch of teams that stink year after year.
He also played on a bunch of teams that stink and desperately needed targets and never really commanded those outside of.
Yeah, I think if you look at it as like he did everything he was asked to do and he did it well. He just wasn't asked to do a lot, and that's it.
Yeah. All right. Next, Dane Belton. Definitely played his best ball in year 4, but still a bad player in my opinion. 6 interceptions in 4 seasons. That's the most for the Giants in that time. I'll always remember that. 120 tackles year 4. Will he take a minimum contract to be the 4th safety on the Giants? Then sure. If not, I'm not making any plans of him being my 3rd safety, but upgrade.
I'm happy upgrading, but Dane Belton, I think, is an undervalued player by Giants fans. I think as a 4th safety who's primarily special teams is the ideal role to get the most out of him. Because when he comes into games in spots, like he always gets production. He ends up getting an interception for no reason. And but at the end of the day, from all the experience we have, is like you don't want him to be a starter. But in minimal responsibility, he's usually in the right place at the right time. And that's it. So
yeah, good special teams. But like I said, I don't want him as safety 3. He's got to be the 4th safety on the team.
Correct.
So if that's the case, then cool. If not, then he's not my 3rd safety. Last one, Isaiah Hodgins. Probably doesn't fit Jackson Dart well, but I think it's a why not. He went, Tried as a hand at other places. 7 catches, 99 yards, and a touchdown in 2 games with Jameis. 3 catches for 16 yards and and 7 games with Dart. So he's not a good fit with Jackson Dart at all, but I'd like to keep him as a backup receiver.
I don't see why not. He costs basically nothing. I don't think there's a ton of demand for him around the league.
No, there's not.
Really
He's a minimum contract.
He's better than Jalen Hyatt, and Jalen Hyatt's on your roster right now. So
Yeah.
yes, resign him.
Will these players ever take a snap in the NFL again? Russell Wilson or Evan Neal? Who has a better chance?
Russell Wilson has a better chance, but I think the thing holding him back is not going anywhere where he's a backup. He will want to go as a starter.
I
But
don't know
he
if anyone
has-
even wants him as a backup.
I mean, that's fair. But you never know, man. I mean, like, who would have guessed that Joe Flacco would have been re-signed? You know what I mean? You just don't know.
That's
He
true.
he could be re-signed in the middle of the year. I don't think anyone is letting Evan Neal see the field. I don't even know if Evan Neal wants to see the field ever again.
Evan Neal has the best chance to be on a team because, he's going to sign with some team.
He's young.
That's going to be crazy, just Evan Neal signs with another team. What a bust, dude. Like, it's so depressing.
incredible.
We were talking about the 2022 pre-draft before the show. And I was like, man, we actually did pretty damn good. Like, look at the best free agents. Those are all guys we liked in the mid-rounds. Hell, even mocked them to the Giants. Evan Neal, though.
It was the slam dunk pick that we saw.
Dude. We should be sitting here being like, yeah, 28 mil per year for Neal is good. And you have Andrew Thomas. Who's Jermaine Eluemunor?
Yeah, we wouldn't even know who Jermaine Eluemunor is.
Yeah. We don't even know who the hell he is. You went to high school and you won't even know who he was.
I know. That's true.
So it's truly depressing. But let's make a bet on this one though.
All right.
So
I'm gonna say it's not make a team. It's
a regular
have a
season
snap.
snap.
Okay.
The next guy to make
Regular season or postseason. We'll combine that. No preseason.
Postseason, obviously.
I'm saying Russell Wilson takes a snap before Evan Neal.
I'm gonna say Evan Neal because offensive linemen get injured. Some team just convinces. I think about the Giants. They brought Isaiah Wilson in to like Evan, and you could put him on the field goal team too, right? With his
That's true.
So I just think there's, he's like Evan Neal will hang around in the NFL in some capacity over the next 2-3 years, on practice squads and stuff. And there's just where Russell Wilson's like, who even wants to bring him in as their backup anymore?
I'm gonna lose my mind if I lose this bet on one field goal or extra point snap, and not only that, it gets blocked because he blew his block.
Here's the bet on that: a $20 scratcher. So like whenever that happens, you'll go and get a scratcher from the gas station, post it on Twitter, but like you either Grump, you either won $50 or nothing.
Fair enough.
All right, so $20 scratcher on that. All right, that's an episode. Wow, I thought we'd be under an hour. We weren't. So Friday, free agency preview. We got Breaking Big Blue coming later this week. Some film I know I've been behind on the college film breakdowns. They're coming out this week. That's a Bobby Skinner guarantee. I know we got sick, and some other stuff. So film breakdowns are coming this week. Go check out the Grump mock draft. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you when we see you. Until then, let's go Big Blue.